Good evening, everybody. And once again, big welcome to Kahani Kanchiti's author chat session. Today, we have an author's chat with Dr. Nandini Sen, her book, The Second Wife and Other Stories. And she will be actually in discussion with, conversation with Professor Ajanta Dutt. So let me first tell you a little bit about Kahani Kancheti. For those of you all are joining us for the first time, Kahani Kancheti is a digital platform where we discuss, broadly speaking, anything that covers art and culture, which means anything to do with books, theater, cinema, poetry, all kinds of stuff. And we have a website called www.kahanikancheti.in. And we also have YouTube, but you can go to our website, and we keep having these chat shows on Facebook, and hopefully you will be constantly joining us. We have a social media page on Facebook, so please do like and follow us on social media so that you are kept informed of all the events that we keep holding. Roughly, it's at about one event a week online. Plus, of course, the website keeps reviewing books and cinema and all kinds of stuff. So that is Kancheti. And today we have Dr. Nandini Sen, his book, The Second Wife and Other Stories. And we already have guests coming in. So first, let me bring in Dr. Nandini Sen and let me formally introduce her to everybody. And that's Nandini Sen with a huge library behind her, smiling away, radiant as always. But I must first tell you that Nandini has been a very regular guest in shows Kahani Kancheti. She first came to, we invited her and she happily agreed to come and join us for a talk session on Mahashita Devi. And then later last year, we had run a series called Ray 100, which was Satyajit Ray Centenary. And we had 8 women taking on 8 female characters from Satyajit's films like Bimola and Sarboja and Durga. And Nandini had come and discussed Charulata. But little more about Nandini, that is that the fact that she is us, a part of Kahani Kancheti. But let me tell you a little bit about her, that Dr. Nandini Sen teaches English in Delhi University and is a writer and social commentator. Her publications include Mahashita Devi, Critical Perspectives, published in 2012, Africa and India in the 21st Century, Context, Comparisons and Cooperation, published in 2015, The Black Woman Speaks, a study of Flora Naupa and Buchi M. Sheta, 2019, and the Diasporic Lens, Volume 1 and 2, published once in the first one in 2017, the second one in 2018. So that's where she has, that's a little thing about her. And Nandini, I hope I got your writers' names on those 2 African ladies you wrote about, correct? Because I find it, NWAPA. So I really don't know how to take that forward. We already have messages from Julie Mehta and Ritika Gupta congratulating you, and they are very excited because they are over here. And now let me bring in the person who is actually going to, rightly the word used is grill. Nandini is Professor Ajanta Dutt. And this is Professor Ajanta Dutt right in front of us. But let me also tell you, and mind you, I had told her to send me a few lines about her, because this is the first time she's coming on our show. And this is the first time of many more times, I can assure you that. But later she said that you can chop off a few lines. I said, I don't think I can. And when I read this out, you will also agree with me that you can't chop any lines. It's a very difficult one to edit, because let me read that and take you through Professor Ajanta Dutt. Professor Ajanta Dutt is a professor of English at Deshabandhu College in Delhi University. She received her doctorate from Rutgers State University in New Jersey. for a study on Indian English novels in the 20th century. Now, please listen to all this carefully. They are all, I'm underlining it with my voice. She taught at Rutgers too and edited landscapes and languages for her ESL writing program of the university. After returning to India, she edited text on Rabindranath Tagore's novel Home and the World and compiled a book, The Poets of the Americas, which included the poems of Pablo Neruda, Derek Walcott, and Margaret Atwood. So there you are. And both were taught in the English Honours program of Delhi University for several years.
Yes.
Dr. Dutta writes on Indian English literature, Shakespeare and studies, and Tagore. She has also translated a selection of Tagore's poems and songs from Bengali to English. And recently, she has worked on film studies with her students and published scholarly articles on selected movies directed by Ritupondo Ghosh and Aparna Sen. She has been a part of an editorial team of a bilingual magazine called Hindor, and she has written scripts for dance dramas which have been performed in the city under the auspices of Dhoni, led by dancer director Srimati Bhashuti Mishra. She says that Nandini's book is a special interest to her because she studied in Loreto and Presidency College in Kolkata. Many of the places and people depicted in The Second Wife thus seems to have come alive to her, along with the Bengali sentiments that they portray. Now, there is a dedication to this book, which, as I said in our social media promotions, the book has been dedicated to all the women whose silence speaks louder than words. I think that, in essence, is the story of the second wife and other stories. So, when we were young, when all of us were young, we were told one thing that, when the elders speak in Bengali, and a lot of you all, I presume, are Bengali over here, we were told that বড়দের যখন বড়রা যখন কথা বলবে তখন ছোটদের থাকা উচিত না. That is, when the elders speak, the youngsters must get away. I am right now playing the youngster because in midst of Anjana and Nandini, I think these are the boros and I must exit so that they can. And Ajanta, please grill Nandini on this book and let's try and get the best. I must also tell some of our friends are also in the wings. This is going to be a a special show because I have Abhay Chawla, Rekha Sapru, and Shivani and Shomik Chakraborty and Mridu all will come in. I will bring you all in from time to time. But first, let me leave the floor to Ajanta and Nandini and take on. Nandini, you are muted, so can you unmute yourself? I can see there is there you are. So I will bring in our friends who are waiting in the wing, so to say, as it happens. So till then, I am going out of it, and I will just be watching from the wings, and I'll bring in our friends who are there on the wings from time to time. Ajanta, all yours. This is all yours. So there I go. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Shrujit Babu. That is wonderful, the way that you have brought us onto this portal together. And Nandini, I'm really, really very, very happy to be here with you because I read your book and I was just longing to have a conversation. I didn't realize that it was going to happen online, but anyway, here goes. So as you know that I'm from Kolkata and I found this great connection with many of your stories in Kolkata. I just want to start off with, in fact, your first story. And I thought that it is also giving a beautiful beginning to the book because your first sentence is, we tend to cohabit with our past. I just loved that word, cohabit. And then you also say that we allow it to impinge upon our present, our future. Few know how to shrug off a meddlesome past. So this meddlesome past, this time period that you are reflecting, and the fact that you mentioned Presidency College in that very first story, The Sapphire Ring. Please tell me, how did you formulate this story? Did it come to you through someone you knew? Did it actually happen? Because I was so touched by the story because when I was in Kolkata, I really heard of stories like this, and I was very, very thrilled to read something like this.
Thank you so much, Shujitda, Ajuntadi. Thanks for this platform. And yes, Ajuntadi, you would be one person I would love to sit down and discuss this with. I never thought that this we would be doing this in public. So first, yeah, I think both of us should show the book to our friends. Maybe you also put it up. And
Absolutely.
yes, so this is for the records people. Read it, and we'd love to know how you like it. So to answer your question, um, I mean, a lot of people have been asking me that did I know somebody? Did I know somebody? And was the story modeled on somebody? So the answer to that is a no. But I did research as part of my postdoctoral work. I did a comparative between the Naxalbari movement and the Mau Mau movement. So that's such a lovely message from Julie D. Thank you so much. So. Uh, so I had done that study, which necessitated for me to go to Kolkata, do some field work there, and I met some women who had been involved in the movement, and I was lucky enough to be able to meet them and talk to them, and so I learned a lot of things from them. I learned that in spite of the fact that the movement had failed, but those years or those few months, they had felt very alive. It had been a liberation of sorts, and it was a dream. And in fact, somebody actually told me this, that when the dream shattered, now nothing phases me anymore, because if that dream could shatter, then nothing in the world matters. So this was, and this interview happened, this was 2013, 2014 I'm talking about. And you know the dates of the Naxalbari movement, and you know when these women would have been students in the institutions that we are talking about. So those many years later, when they're grandmothers, when they're old, they still have that fire in the belly, and they're you know, they hold that movement so dear to their hearts, that they are able to say that you know it if that movement collapsed, then what are we living for? You know, nothing bothers us anymore. We tried to change the world, it didn't change. So I think I caught on to the ethos, if I may say so. And then when you talk about presidency, of course, with, for people like you who have been to that institution, you know, we've always talked about it in hushed tones, that all the brilliant people in the family went there. I unfortunately never studied in Kolkata, but had all these illustrious mashis and meshos, and you know, the relatives who all studied there, and talked about the institution. So it was a lot of, actually it was a lot of my academic study, and then meeting up with some of these people, which gave shape to the story. But otherwise it was purely imaginative. This is one story for which I did not have somebody who I modeled it on. It was purely imaginative, but I'm glad it came out the way it did.
Thank you, Nandini. That really resonates so well, and I'm so actually moved to think that this is your fictional, really pure fictional story, and yet it is so real, because Geeta is such a real person, and that sapphire ring, her ring, which flashes in the procession, that is so real, and the fact that she tells Rue that the friends will not forgive him, that is in fact something that even I seem to remember from our college days, that was the feeling, that was the idealism. But to go on from Geeta's story, really, you've centered most of your stories around the women, and you've uh, given a very different kind of ending from what I expected. Now, I don't want to be a spoiler here and talk about endings, but there is a definite difference in the end. There is hope, there is choice, there is happiness. Why did you come to this sort of a structure in most of your stories?
So Mohashadati, I think that is my life philosophy, so to say. I mean, and I think there's a lot of Mohashita in there as well, because I studied her and researched her so much. I saw these characters that, you know, you cannot have. While I would love to have this ideal society where everything works in your favor and you do everything that you set out to do, no, it does not happen. You know, you are trapped within patriarchy, you're trying to forever carve your space. There is a fight on a daily basis to be who you are, or to claim the spaces that you think are deserve to be claimed. So it is a continuous fight. It's not easy for any woman, be she an educated person teaching in the university like the two of us are, be she or domestic help, anybody. There is that, it's like a daily struggle to be alive and to claim the spaces that are precious to you in a certain manner. And yet all of us go on. We don't say, okay, we can't do it, so we are stopping today. We are going on. We are fighting it. We are battling it, sometimes softly, sometimes very noisily. We make our presence felt, and it goes on. Our mothers did it before us, our grandmothers did it before us. It's a movement, it's a continual movement. It's not been easy on anyone. So my stories are about hope, but I never make it. It can't be an unbridled joy, because that space, I don't know if it even exists. So my stories are about the struggles, but I don't want to end in despair, because I feel within those confines, you are struggling and you are succeeding. And if there is a group of women, then the success rate is higher, because that sisterhood then pushes you ahead. If it's a lone battle, then, well, you're fighting that much harder. So I think that's the kind of women that I see, and that's the kind of women that I interact with, and that is the kind of women, therefore, I talk about. So my stories are not magical, that you desire something and poof, everything happens. No, it does not. That's not what real life is all about. So they are about struggles, and those are the struggles that I talk about. And I also feel that the struggles are so needed in order for that person to be influenced. So I also see it as as something that makes her who she becomes. So that is why the stories probably are the way they are. So yeah, I don't know if
Okay,
that answers.
can I just butt
Yeah.
in over here? Can I just butt in
Yeah.
over here?
Yeah.
I have, there are 5 guests who are waiting in the wings, as I said. So let me just bring them in one at a time. And I think Ajanta can take a breather. But Nandini, you will, of course, be grilled. But before I call all of them in one by one, there are 5 of them waiting. There's a very interesting year from Julie Mehta, ma'am. And she says this first story sets a powerful pace for the rest of the collection. The Mau Mau and Nakshalbari connection makes for a transitional geography and a broad history that upgrades your celebration of the feminine. Absolutely correct. In fact, this was what I had
Absolutely.
also told you yesterday, that I had asked you this, that when did you meet Geeta? Where did you meet Geeta? Because again, what struck me, and it must have also struck Ajanta, was that when Geeta happened or Nakshalbari happened, you were probably not there hands-on. But then you mentioned to me what you said today, the Mau Mau and the Nakshalbari study. So let me bring in Abhay Chawla, who is here. And Abhay, where are you? Where's your... Yes,
Uh,
Abhay, can you come
yeah,
in?
my camera is not working, but my voice
Okay,
should be audible.
we can hear you. We can hear you. Go on.
Yeah,
You have
so
any particular question to ask, Abhay? Yeah.
not as of now. I was hearing this wonderful interaction which was going on, and how Professor Sen is describing her book about the women characters, and the fact that life is not one big joy and fun thing. It is grounded in reality, and yet there is hope, and yet we need to fight across. Great, great. I'm listening. If whenever a question arises, I shall come in.
Thanks, Abhay.
Okay, if you can come in, or what you can do, Abhay, is to use the chat box, right? Use the chat box so that, the discussion goes on and we'll put up the thing. And the
Perfectly
next
fine.
person I have here, okay, right, sure. Then I'm putting you slightly backstage right now. And then I have Shivani is here. And Shivani, you can also, I hope you can we see you, hear you? Yeah, Shivani, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Am I audible? Good evening.
Okay.
Hi,
You're
Shivani, we
audible.
can
Good
see
evening.
you, but
You can,
we can't see you, I'm afraid.
Actually, my
yeah,
camera
we can
is
see you.
not very good. So, and the connection is not very good. So, if I switch on the camera, then
Okay,
I may
go
go off
ahead.
the air. So
Okay, fair
actually,
enough. Go ahead, go with
I
the
have,
question.
thank you. I have read this collection of stories and I have found it a very interesting set of stories. In the happy times, Nandini, I see that the protagonist has come to terms with the follies of her spouse, and she ends up taking care of his daughter. Here, I feel that you have portrayed a woman who has a very large heart. And I'd like to know what made you what made you etch a character, giving her such largeness of heart, such kindness, which usually is not expected. Usually, we expect that there would be resentment, there would be a lot of opposition, but then here the ending is very different.
Uh, Thanks, Shivani, for that. I somehow call it my naivety or whatever that you might call it. I always feel that women are extremely large-hearted. If you are able to separate yourself a little from the situation, see, on a normal circumstance, a child born to another woman might not be something one would accept very easily, but given the circumstance, she rises to the occasion, she does what is right. So I always feel somebody whose heart is in the right place willy nilly will land up doing the correct thing, whether she wants. It's a progression where you can step back, where you can push back your sorrows, where you can learn to forgive because you know that the person in concern has not been at fault. So that is also, I would say, my understanding of women, because I see so much love, so much forgiveness, so much ability to give, and so much about women who are able to, you know, take those couple of steps back and make life better for another person. So that, to my mind, is the kind of woman that I aspire to be, or that I love, and that I would love to portray. So I think my protagonist comes from there. So while one might feel that that's not the normal reaction, now I don't know what the normal reaction is. I mean, is what we see on those TV serials, that bickering, that shouting, can there not be a relationship which is not like that? Because I'm sure there can be. I mean, I do read about, and I do know people who, of late we have been seeing so many of these wedding pictures of celebrity weddings. We see the current wife being extremely friendly with the ex-wife. Now, which again, in our normal stereotypical situation, we would say it's just not possible. But why is it not possible? I have read, Nobunita Debshen talking about Amartya Sen's wife in such nice manner that there was no that there was no evil stepmother. She was a good person. So
No, in fact, thank you so much. In fact, I was very impressed because, as you rightly pointed out, that in the TV serials these days, the picture of the Indian woman that we get to see is that of such a pugnacious one. And here we have a real picture of women as they are, especially in the Indian context, and women who rise above their prejudices and who uh, really turn out to be the way the mothers that they are, and they share the love that they have, and they are not biased as they are portrayed to be. So that was very interesting. Thank you so much.
thanks, Shivani.
Okay, I think we have two more. We'll wait for them, but let the discussion with Ajanta continue, and then we will bring in. Right now, I've got Shomik and Mridu Prithu, I know you have been making some comments on the private chat, but I suggest when I bring you in after, say, this is like a basketball match. After every 15 minutes, there is that break, and some people from the bench come on and we go back. I really don't know how it
Maybe
works.
Shudita, we should bring in Julie Di also. Why don't we send her the StreamYard link and bring her in?
Yeah, sure. That will be excellent. I think I'll do that. I think I'll send her.
Yeah.
I can put it up over here only.
While
And
I
by
talk
the
to
way,
Ajanta Di, I
for
think we
those
can
who,
get her in.
yeah, fair enough. And one more thing, which is that
Ajanta Di,
Ajanta,
you're
you're muted. Huh?
Sorry. To take off from the last question, that was the story. Nandini, yours was happy times, so, and there's happy endings right through the book. So I want to take you to another story of yours, which is called Lipstick, where Malati comes across her son and he is applying her lipstick and he says it's for a school play. Can you tell me a little more about this story? How did you come by such a plot where obviously the son is not comfortable in his role as a son, as a young boy, maybe as a man? So what do you think is the role of motherhood if one is confronted by something like this?
Ajanta, even as we talk today, there is a child who has committed suicide in one of our premier institutions in Delhi because he was teased for being gay. And this, I think, has happened yesterday or today. So it's in the it's doing the rounds of the news today. So when you ask me this question, it is so important for the teachers, for the students, for the parents to be talking to their children, to be enablers rather than people sitting on judgment and wrecking their lives, so to say. So this story again, I cannot claim to know somebody, but I think this also evolved due to my my constant chat with my son, which we've been having throughout his years of growing up, where he has confided in me at all points of time, and he has said this to me, that there are while he's able to talk to me, there are several children who cannot talk to their mothers. So this young boy started to counsel other kids because he thought, he can tell his mother anything, and he, would be able to counsel others. This story came from this, the whole thing about how people were being marginalized and talked about, and in spite of the fact that there was decriminalization within the social structures, it was still not acceptable. And there was so much being written about, there were so many gay pride parades happening, everything was happening outside of the so-called insular society of ours, but somehow within our own houses and our own families, these conversations were not happening and people were not talking, which was forcing the young kids who were growing up, who were they were still at a very tender age, say 11 or 10 or 12 or 13, who probably didn't have all the correct words and the language to describe what they were feeling or what they were going through, either to their peers or to their parents, but were being suppressed, and pejorative words being used or looked down upon, and all of that. So I think it's all of that which made me talk about this. And then in the progression of the story, I had to bring in this woman enabler, because that is something that I hold very dear to my heart. I always, and I also tell my students, and I always say this, that 3M friend that you have has to be a woman who's going to hold you up. So that is, so I had to bring in that kind of a kinship, friendship, where another woman, she can be anybody. She can be your domestic help. She can be just about anybody. She can be your neighbor. She can be a friend. She can be a student. She can be your professor. Somebody who holds you up. And I think that is so essential. That is so essential for each one of us to take that next step when we know that there is this circle of loving women who are holding you up. which is what I was telling you when before we started, that I feel so blessed that I have seniors like you who hold me up. And it believe you me, it matters. It matters because that enables you to take that next step. So I somehow have this innate faith in the goodness of human beings, and I think that remains at the core of my storytelling. That willy-nilly people are good and they hold each other up and they support, and particularly women, because that's who I'm talking about.
So in this story, this enabler, you have called her Joy, which has a double meaning.
Yes.
Banglate joy is victory, and English
Yes.
joy is happiness. And it's really a lovely name that way. And I thought that when you speak of this sisterhood and people holding each other up, so who is your favorite sister in this book, Nandini? Out of all these women whose lives you're tracing, who is your favorite sister? Your favorite sister? Yes.
I don't think I can. I think it's like a mother of who's had 11 children and can't choose between any of them. So I don't know who my favorite would be, but maybe if pushed, then maybe the second wife, maybe Bella. She
Okay.
she kind of remains iconic in so many senses. And I think I had a lot of Tagore in my mind when I was writing her, or I don't know, people did see, I don't know, there was so many things in my mind when Bella was taking shape. So I think, yeah, probably if the one name I have to take, it would probably be Bella.
So Bela also has a very surprise end because here I have to give you a spoiler and say that, well, she joins the national movement, right? But do you really feel that a woman who is actually being loved by her husband and she's found a place in that household, can she turn her back on marriage and just walk out? Is that doable?
This was a woman who didn't care for any of this. And the reason why, there is a progression in that character. If you remember, she loved her books. She wanted to read and write. She wanted to be something quite different from where life takes her. She bears with all of that, and there is that sense of something not happening right, which she carries with her at all points of time. She And that steely resolve, therefore, that she has, which nobody can pierce and enter. So Ratan tries so hard, but he, she doesn't budge, because all that she was doing was doing her duty. And since this is a question that all of you have been asking me, so have I known women like that? And so yes, I did know women like that. I knew somebody who kind of gave up her life bringing other people's children, and at the fag end of her life, I had asked her this question, that you did so much for everyone, what did you do for yourself? And believe you me, she looked at me. She was, I think, in her 70s or something then. She stared at me, and I was this rank college kid, who seemed to think I knew everything. But I had this question because I used to get irritated seeing how she behaved half the while. And then I said, you did all this for what? For whom? And what did you do for yourself? So she stared at me for the longest time, and then she said, I didn't know that I had to do something for myself. And that shook me. And like I said, I was a rookie in college, but that thing remained with me, that here are these women who have bought into this idea of sacrifice so much that they have never learned even to think for themselves or think about themselves. It's not as if she doesn't realize that she has been wronged on several occasions, but she has not learned to find her space under the sun. So my Bella had to do it. She couldn't be this woman who would turn and look at me and say, I never knew that I needed to do something for myself. So this Bella did something for herself. And again, this is and of course it didn't go down well with the society, because the society wants to look at women in a certain way. And I think that is the answer also that I wanted to give. And this is something, it didn't end with the nationalist period or with the lady that I'm talking about. Even today I see women making all these obnoxious sacrifices for just hearing this one word of praise that oh kitni अच्छी है, वो बहुत अच्छी है, वो कितना करती है, इतना ज़्यादा करती है. And for just that praise, that person is literally ready to give their lives. I mean, I find that so unjust. And I wanted to therefore write Bela the way I wrote her. She had to get justice. And if you see it ends with the mother. It doesn't end with Bela. So the mother.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah. So that feeling also I had, that the mothers push their daughters, saying, "You have to do this. You have to do this. You have to, become like this. You have to do this for your mother-in-law. You have to do this for your father-in-law." For the works. But if you notice, what she's telling her daughter and what she feels about her daughter are two entirely different things, because that is where the societal sort of thing is coming in, So she has to say all the right things. She has to train her daughter in a certain manner. But within, the core of her heart, she knows that her daughter is not meant for all of that, that she's a different girl altogether. So I think all of that, these are people I have known all my lives. And therefore, I wanted to talk about them. I still know people like that who just kind of giving their lives to please somebody who are never pleased, or their lives are not acknowledged. How many women we know die without any kind of an acknowledgement coming their way from any quarter where they are told that they have done a great job. So I think all of that worked its way into Bela.
Okay, I think I must butt in over here, because again that basketball 15 minutes for two reasons. One is that I think now between both of you all, what you all are discussing, this is now not going beyond being a book launch. It is gone beyond being an author's chat. We are actually into a seminar of sorts. It's really reached that level. Frankly, that's what I think all our viewers will agree. And I think after you have done some more rounds, it may Anjuna can send the link to the seminar to Julie Mehta, because Julie ma'am has been writing long comments on the chat box. So maybe we might first as well bring her in at a stage. But right now, I have Mridu, who has also been commenting. Let Mridu come in and ask a question or two, or join the discussion. Mridu, are you there? Can you you're in. I've got you in, but your mic is muted and your camera is not working. I think we are unable to reach her, though she is okay. Let me now get on to Shivani.
Can you hear me? Sorry, did you ask me?
Okay, who's this?
Yeah, my audio is not good.
This is Mridu.
Okay.
Mridu, just switch on your video, please.
Yeah, I am. I'm just trying to get a better connection. 1 second. I'll do that.
Okay.
Sorry, there was a disturbance. Huh? Hi, this is Mridu, and I loved all the stories. I really admired them. There was a lot of strength and hope in them. I just wondered that if these women were set in 70s, days, many years before today, before the social media came in the picture, would they be as strong as they are right now? Would they be as strong as these women, or would they be stronger in some areas and weaker in other areas? Because there's a lot of pressure to be the image that you portray in social media, or any other place for that matter.
No, Mridu, I get what you are saying, that all of us are currently under so much of pressure to look a certain kind, to behave in a certain manner, to be acceptable in a certain manner. So yes, I can understand whether these women, how would they behave if it was a 2022 story.
Yeah, I mean, apart from the familial pressure and the social norms that they had to break free of, there are the other, many other layers of approvals that we have kind of set for ourselves.
True that. We've made our lives very difficult thanks to the social media, thanks to the visual media. But I would like to say that the challenges, see, the nature of the challenge might be somewhat different, but the heart of the challenges continue to remain the same. I mean, that doesn't really change.
I
So
completely
therefore,
agree.
yeah, so therefore I think maybe a Bella in 2022 would be dressed very differently. She would probably look very modern and flaunt a pair of what are those pairs of jeans called, distress jeans or whatever. She might have been all that, but in her thought process, in her heart, she would have been quite the same person. She would have stood up for causes that we all hold dear to our heart. She would have fought the battles that all of us feel need to be fought. She would have been a front at the front lines of the battles that we think which need to be fought. So I think, yes, maybe the clothes and the mannerisms would have changed, but otherwise I don't think there would be that much difference really, because see I can see Abhay is writing, and he's a social media expert. I'm seeing his comment here saying that social media would not change anything. It would be an
So what I
enabler.
meant was, see, here she was having a marriage which was private to her and her alone. There were no other people who knew how good the marriage was, how bad the marriage was. But when you are so connected with everybody, a lot of people, you kind of end up selling an image, which, and then living up to the image. Even if you're not, it's not about, I'm not talking about just the likes or wanting to be present. It's the people you meet, the people you're connected with right from your past to your present to your future. There's an image you are endorsing even without wanting to endorse. So apart from all the norms that you break when you kind of just walk out, these are the, I mean, it is a little more harder is what I was thinking.
I don't think I'd agree with you there, Mridu. I would say it is just as hard or as easy. You're right that we construct an image and then we try very hard to live up to that image. But our foremothers they didn't have to construct an image. They were given a constructed image which they had to live with. And when you say that marriage was private, when was it ever private? It was always a public affair with marriages of families, how the households used to be, let's say if we are talking about Bella, and if we are talking about the household that she would have shared with Ratan, an easy imagination would be that there would be so many nanads, there were so many, that's how the households used to be. So,
and neighbors and house helps, everybody. I would also like to compliment you on the fact that you women did not get their strength from a loving support of a partner or spouse, but they had to draw the strength from within. So I really like that.
Thanks. In fact, that was a critique which came from one of my professors who read the book and who says, why don't I find good men in these books? Barring Jochon, I didn't find a single good man. I think I'll have to correct that next time. But yes, again...
There's Arun as well in Laila. Arun is a good man.
Yes, he's a good man, yes. But I think, again, that is what I, again, kind of believe in, Mridu, that a lot of what we do, and when I say we, all of us, while I'm very appreciative and very grateful for the support that I get from my sisters, when I say sisters, the sisterhood which sustains me, but there's a lot of strength that has to come from within us. So I think what you do, I mean, we'll not talk about it since I know you. I know the kind of work that you do, what Ajanta Dutt does or I do. There is a reserve that, of strength that has to come from within us. And of course, then we have to have that galaxy of sisterhood who will hold us up for us to be able to take the next step. So I do believe in that that eventually that strength, that sun has to be inside of you and, propel you. And of course, the external support does matter. So yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Now, before I bring in Shivani, who is the only one person waiting, I have a comment from a man. And this man is no ordinary man. He is Maulai Rai Chaudhuri, the Hungryalist poet. The Hungryalist poet Maulai Rai Chaudhuri, who was sentenced to go to jail for that book for the poem that he wrote, Stark Electric Jesus, or what is it called? Prochando Boidutik Chutar, যার জন্য মলয় কাকাকে জেলে পাঠানো হয়েছিল। Anyway, he got out of it. But Molay is a very big Molay Kaka is a very big well-wisher of Kahani Kancheti, and he attends all our shows. And this is what he has to say about the second wife. Molay Kaka writes that Amartya Sen's first wife was very beautiful and erudite. Amartya Sen took a second wife, then left her and took a third wife. So that I think is a comment coming from Molay Kaka. Thank you, Molay Kaka, for being with us and commenting. And now let me bring in Shivani. After that, we will go back to the seminar. Shivani, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes, very much so. Am I audible?
Okay.
Yes,
You're
Shivani,
audible.
you are.
Can you put on your camera so we can see you also and everybody can see you?
Actually, the connection, the internet connection is very weak. So please pardon me. Nandini, one reason why I have appreciated this book so much is that the women protagonists here are women with fire in them. They at some point in their lives, they rebel. And in making them rebel, you have brought the Indian woman in literature especially to a point that she has come to being what we know as the modern woman, who would not be satisfied with only doing what the society expects her to do. So what inspired you to do this?
I don't know, Shivani. There was no thought process per se. But like I said, the kind of reading that I have been doing all my life, the kind of, women who have impressed me enormously. So I have been lucky enough to meet Mahashita Devi and spend some good time with her, interviewing her, talking to her. So I have thoroughly admired women who have done so much for the society, for people who are dispossessed. I have had the good fortune of being taught by some exemplary women academics who, charted out this path of the academia for me. So I think along the way have met with extremely powerful women, and therefore I wanted to showcase, and to me the womanhood is about making a mark, with not carrying a jhanda and saying, oh, I'm a feminist. No, but to make a mark, uh, just to sort of, how do I say, to salvage her own soul more than anything else. So I think that to me is the true calling, and that's precisely what I've shown. So it's not a rebellion per se, but it is very definitely a step towards what one thinks is right. So if you notice, none of these are these are not gun-toting women who have gone and fought wars or done anything done anything like that. But these are women who operate within patriarchy, and yet they remain true to their calling in a certain manner. So I think I'll quote, because the talk kind of began with talking about Buchi Emecheta, somebody who I've researched. So Buchi Emecheta says it is feminism with a small f. So I think what my women too are feminists with a small f. Most of them do not and have not heard the word feminism. They don't need to. They just do what their heart tells them to do, and their heart tells them to do right things. So it's just as simple as that.
Thank you so much. That was a lovely
answer. Thank you for coming in, Shivani, and joining this chat. And I think there is only one more gentleman who in the wings is, I think Shomik has not come in as yet. No, Shomik Chakraborty. Shomik, are you there, Shomik?
Yes, he's there.
Yes.
He's there. Yeah, I can't see. I can hear you. So can you talk? Yeah, you are. Yeah, you go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Question.
Yes, you are. Yes.
Yeah. So, Professor, I want my question to Professor Sen is about literary activism, because in her writings, her writings are deal with contemporary issues, burning issues, and her writings are vividly realist, and they deal with like issues that are really sort of our times. So I wanted to ask her and get her comments on what does she think about literary activism, like does so and what are the responsibilities that an author has while responding to the times, and sort of the activist in the author and the activist in the literary, and her opinion on that.
Thank you, Shomik. Shomik always asks very difficult questions. He's one of our star students from Venkateshwar College, and I'm so happy that he's here. And so we have the male perspective as well as the student's perspective, so to say. So thank you, Shomik, for everything that you said. Talking about literary activism, I think. It is essential. See, most of us are critiqued, and justifiably so, that we are armchair academics, and all we do is talk in the air, which is well taken, because that's what I do. Um, but it is important, again, given the kind of situation that we seem to be in, and literature is for a purpose. I mean, we've talked ad nauseum about art for art's sake, but we all know that art really can't be for art's sake. Art is for a purpose, and the purpose is very simple. It is for the good of humanity. I keep it very simple. I'm not going to go into major jargons here. It is for the good of the people. It is for the good of humanity. So if your writing is propelling you, or propelling the youth, or propelling your readers towards something good, something which makes them think, and that thought process leads them to the betterment of the society, then I think it is a very valid pursuit, and that's how it should be. And we've had exemplary predecessors. I mean, I really don't know what to call literary activism. I mean, Mahashita Devi, activist, literary activist, or entirely an activist, or an author who's also an activist. But if you look at, say, Urvashi Butalia, what she does with partition stories, the very fact that she told the stories of the women who would otherwise never have talked. The stories of partition which women faced, and suffered, and chose not to talk about because it would land up implicating their own families. See, there are so many stories that we hide. There are so many secrets that we stuff under the pillows in the name of family. There is so much that we don't speak about. To that effect, I think literary activism needs to be there, and sensitization has to happen. I also can't say that I would believe in writing something abstract and which will not have any relevance to the person that I am, to the society in which I live in, to the students that I'm talking to on a daily basis. So I would really feel blessed if any of these characters or any of these stories resonates with anybody, and makes that person think. I'm not even saying do anything dramatic, but think, and that thought process takes that person forward. So I think then my stories would have succeeded. And they're born out of the society that I live in, and I can't divorce myself from my society, from what I see on a daily basis. So it comes from there. So yeah, I hope that answers you.
Thank you, Shomik. Thank you for
Thank you,
joining us. Now, Ajanta, all yours. There are some comments which are coming. I'll be putting them up, but I think let's continue with the seminar that we are having. Amazing.
Actually, to get the seminar and the book launch sort of going together, Nandini, would you like to read us an excerpt from one of your stories? Because we're hearing so much about these women, and there might be people who would like to know a little more about the way you're breaking their silence and giving them a voice.
Ajanta, you asked me to, but I didn't earmark, so I'll just read. I don't know if these are the good things to read. So I think I'll begin with the Sapphire Ring, since all of you have been talking about it. So it begins like this. We tend to cohabit with our past. We allow it to impinge upon our present, our future. Few know how to shrug off a meddlesome past, but I'm one such person. If I had allowed my past to spill over into my present, I would not be where I am today. Writing a best selling novel is one thing, and retaining one's position as a writer of global repute is another. Uh, this is not very nice. Then let me go a little further. Um, okay. Um, yeah. So this is just a random line that I'm reading. You'll have to, of course, read the story to get a sense of it. My last thoughts before I slip into nothingness are of the beautiful Geeta leading the march, her long plaits swinging to her gate, and her sapphire ring blazing in the sun. Like I said, I didn't choose the right spaces to read, so pardon me. Another, and this is the end because I didn't choose the pieces. I'd be happier answering. Um, Okay. Nobunita was no good at stealing. Being an only child, she had been well taken care of. She had had no dearth of food, so stealing even tidbits from the kitchen, which all her friends did, was alien to her. But today, she would have to steal and hide something. She would have to walk all the way from the kitchen to her bedroom, hiding it in the folds of her sari. The mere thought sent a chill up her spine. She could feel its sharp edge against her body as she pictured herself carrying it to her bed. Nobunita was sure her heartbeat was echoing across the house. She could be caught any moment now, and yet she knew she had to do it. And I think this, what I've been talking about, that this, she knew she had to do it. Reclaiming one's own soul. I think that remains at the crux of my entire work. So I think I'll give the reading a rest. Can we go on?
Okay, thank you so much. But I want to. I can't let this discussion end without referring to the story about Koikei, Queen Koikei,
Yes.
and I want to just read a little bit. Over there, you say that this is Queen Koikei talking. You say. Well, the narrator is saying, "Fine boys you have, Queen Koikei." I said, "Are all of them yours?" "Only the eldest, Ram, my favorite son," she laughed. A younger child hugged her by her slim waist. "No, Ram Bhaiya is Mother Kaushala's son. I am your son," he said plaintively. She lifted him in her arms and swung him around. "Why did you feel the need to make Koikei such a loving mother to all the four? And why did you want to, take away that, what history, what legend, what everybody has put on her and make her a good woman after all?"
The first bit I stick to what one has read or heard, that Koikei was she was a good mother to, and she loved all the four kids equally. So the story goes that it is Monthora who poisons her mind, and then she becomes all that wicked, and then she asks for that boon and all of that. But why I wanted to make Kaikai different from what we've always heard about her. Again, call it what you will, but a lot of these women from the epics, I have always felt that their stories have remained so incomplete. A lot of the women from the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, who are there. They have been painted in either very good terms or very negative terms, and not too much space given to them. And of course, the feminist readings have not found the kind of space that it should have within the academia and within the public discourse. Of course, I mean, when I talk about it today, I'm saying all these grand things. When I started to work on Kaikai, it was just out of sheer whim. But I always found her to be very, very interesting because, see, there were these so many stories that Kaikai was a warrior queen. She had accompanied Dashrath to a war, and she had fought by his side, and she was responsible for having saved his life. And out of the three women, she was supposed to be she was supposed to be the prettiest. And then so these were there. Those are not of my invention, they were there. So I always had this one question which I think I was asking myself, that if she was all that, she was a warrior, she was beautiful, she was everything, then why was she being treated so shabbily? And the king had asked her to ask what she wanted. So if he had granted the boon, why does she become the one who's reviled and who's the monster in the story? Whereas it should have been the husband who made that blanket statement without thinking things through. So how come he's never blamed and it is she who's blamed? So she's the one who's broken the family, she's the one who's done everything wrong, and so on and so forth. So I think that remained with me. And then that, with some degree of imagination, made me reinvent the Kaikei that you meet. And from all the reviews that I've been getting, that I think it's one of the favorite stories which people have really enjoyed. So I did. Oh, why did I go off? That why on earth? And was it really her fault? Now, if a woman is such a great warrior, if a woman is so brave, if she came from a land which was very rich, and then I tried to imagine, then how would the life be with two co-wives, with an aging husband who could not even have children at that point of time, so they had to do a younger. What would life be like? It wouldn't be a very nice space to be in. How would she then have felt? I think all of that I thought through and wrote the story as I did. But that bit about her loving all kids equally was something that that's the story that I didn't create, but I just fleshed it out. That's the mother, yeah.
Actually, yes, those lines actually reminds one of the kind of joint family system that there used to be in the previous times, when
Precisely.
that was the kind of sentiment that would be there amongst the sons, the cousins, all of them being just from the same mother. Well, actually, another question that keeps there's so much passion in these women that you've created. I keep wondering, are you planning a novel on any of them? Like, what is the afterlife of some of these women? Are you going to take one of these stories further and make it into a full-length novel?
I know, Ajanta, they have been asked this question, and I'm flattered that everyone thinks that there is a novel in so many of these stories. I think DU will have to go a little easy on me. The IQAC will have to go a little easy on me before I can sit down and start writing. But yes, I think so. I would love to. That will be the next venture. Yes. Which one I cannot tell yet, but yes. I think there is a question that Nilakshi is asking. To what extent do you think women empowerment can be influenced by this book? Do you think the younger generation will really be influenced, given that they will still watch shows where women remain a showpiece, an object to look good and dainty? Nilakshi, to answer your question, if I may, I think that links with what Mridu was also talking about, that given the pressures that are there to confirm, given what the social media tells you how you're supposed to look, and all of that, will they still be empowered? I would say yes. Yes, because there might be all manners of pressures. There is a pressure to look a certain kind. There is a pressure to behave in a certain manner. But there is also, I do see around me, I see women who are able to redefine themselves in so many ways. It's happening all the time. So I do see, and if the question is, how will this book enable them? If they're reading, they've already taken the first step. If they're ideating and thinking, they've already taken the second step. So if they are reading and thinking and taking that step, so willy-nilly, even with the social media or without it, I'm sure it'll bring about a difference. The social media, see, we all grew up with some pressure or the other. Yes, we did not have an Instagram telling us how we need to look on a daily basis, but there were our mothers and our grandmothers who were telling us how to look. we were getting scolded left, right, and center for wearing something or not wearing something. That did not stop us from being focused on what we wish to be focused on. How many times did we not hear when we were growing up? I'll tell you what I heard. All the while when I was growing up, that I had a grandma who used to tell this, that this girl can never get married because she's dark, and because she forever reads a book, and that too in English. So and then so I grew up with that, and I had a healthy disregard for anything that she was saying. But not to say that that didn't pinch. Then she would compare me with the other girls in the family who were fair and pretty and what have you, and say, look at them and look at her, So one has lived with that. So if the Instagram, so what I think our grandmothers and mothers and others did to us, are the Insta and the thing are doing to our younger generation. But that is not going to be something which will curtail their thinking process. No. The thinking process needs to be channelized. It will be channelized, maybe at a school level or at a certain level. But I meet such empowered kids in schools and colleges. I meet very empowered kids. So I feel, you heard Shomik just now. You have very empowered kids. So I don't think the media has that kind of an effect that we like to think. We take from media what suits us. So if we are of a certain kind, like none of us watch a certain kind of serials, we have chosen not to watch it. We do not watch a certain kind of news channel. We have chosen not to do it. And our kids do pretty much the same, believe you me. So I have a huge amount of trust and faith in the next generation. They might be Insta-led, they might be Twitter generation, they might be whatever, Gen Z. They are sorted out, as far as I am concerned. And I think Ajanta Dutt will agree with me, being a teacher herself. I see so much potential. And thanks.
I think absolutely, Nandini, absolutely. And if you've seen the chat box, we have Nilakshi telling you that Nobunita is perhaps the most powerful story. So would you like to comment on Nobunita? Because there, of course, Broti Babu is one of the worst, right? And he is something who has been depicted in novels, movies, short stories, so many different times. So what gave you the energy to put in that kind of power into her hands in the end of the story, that she tries to take revenge?
So interestingly, now this I can share. I knew Broti Babu. I knew him in person. And he had created so much havoc within the family structure. Interestingly, the family never opened their mouth about it. It was supremely hush-hush. But it was like the worst kept secret in the family. But the person was never ever named and shamed in his lifetime. And I think because I knew that person, and then of course, you watch films, you have that character in Monsoon Wedding, and then you had people talking about uncles doing what they do to the nieces, and that secrecy that is maintained within the family. That was a very disturbing thing, which I saw happening in my years when I was growing up. And I think till date somewhere there is a regret that even I did not name and shame him. But if at all anything can be said in my defense, I was too young to really understand. But I think that anger remained with me. And then I could have a Nobunita who could. Though if you see the story, Nobunita's rebellion might not dent the Broti Babu in any which way. Broti Babu is too powerful. He is who he is. So probably in the next scene, after the story ends, he would just get up, adjust his clothes, and walk out and send the police out to catch hold of that girl. Maybe that girl would be caught. Maybe she would be beaten up, raped, anything. He could do anything. He had all the money. He had all the power. And she had nothing. Her parents had nothing. So outside of that story, anything could be happening to Nobunita. But for that one instant, that one little period in her life. I wanted her to be able to feel whole again, and that was essential. Um, this story also had another part where, and this was in one of the Gurgaon societies, in one of the swanky apartment complexes, where domestic help had complained about the sahab of the house abusing her. And this girl was from a what do you call it, the agency. So she couldn't really even go back or do anything, and she was completely trapped. So like I said, there were so many instances that I think were there, that I knew about these abusive men. So Broti Babu had changed now in his 21st century avatar. He was a corporate guy, uh, and very friendly and very nice to talk to. And when I heard what he was doing, it was completely shocking. Then of course there was the Me Too movement, and how many people we heard. So I think that is a thing that I've carried with me, and that found its expression through this story. Yeah. So I wanted Nobunita to succeed, but again, I could not have Nobunita, winning her battle, because uh, that maid could not have won a battle in an apartment complex which was completely biased in favor of the house owner as opposed to a domestic help. Nobunita would not win a battle out once the story ends and she is gone out of the house. Who knows what happens to her the very next morning? So so that pain, I think, came from within, and I'm glad therefore that the story got written and got appreciated the way it did.
Okay, there is a very long thank you note from Julie Mehta, which she says that it's been a persuasive and inventive writer and a most nuanced and erudite
Interlocutor, yes.
Thoroughly enjoyable. Thoroughly enjoyable launch with Professors Ajanta Dutt and Nandini Sen. There's only one correction, Julie ma'am. I am not the doctor here. They are all doctors. Even I think some of the guests who came, they are also doctor. I bet that Shomik Chakraborty is also going to end up as a doctor when, as he goes in life.
He will.
Best wishes, Shomik. I am the riffraff into the whole thing. What we call in Bengali, in the Bangla syndrome, I am the Shataranchi party. I have rolled out the Shataranchi, performers have come. After they go away, I'll roll up the Shataranchi and go home. But thank you very much for attending a Kahani Kancheti session. And I hope you will continue to join us at the Kahani Kanchetis. And Urmimala Chaudhary is again one person. I think you're selling. One good thing that has happened is that I think people are going to just be at the end of it, they'll be clicking Amazon. I've given the link because everybody now seems to be wanting to read the book. And thank you, Urmi. I think you are here from Shantiniketan right now. Last time I heard you were in Shantiniketan. So that I think is by and large is where we. Julie ma'am has made a correction. Sujit ji. Now only Sujit is fine. That I think should take care of me. All right. So now I think it's for us to it's been a very very interesting and a very long discussion.
If I may just butt in for a minute.
It's all yours.
Those of you in Delhi, there's going to be a book reading at Gurgaon Ambience Mall at Om Bookstore from 4 to 6 p.m. On the 12th of March. So if you are in Delhi, please do come by and we could meet in person and we could discuss the book once again. So yeah, over to you.
And I'm sure Ajanta will also be there.
I really hope so.
I hope so. I sincerely hope so.
Ajanta, what about your mother? You said you would bring her in.
I don't think we managed to make the link work on her phone, and so we couldn't do it. So,
but I think we must all meet up on 12th. At what time is it, Nandini? That
4 o'clock, between 4 and 6. 4 o'clock at Ambience Mall, Gurgaon, Om Bookstore.
Lovely. Absolutely. We'll be there. And I think, Ajanta, you will also be there, so that for the first time, Nandini, I'll be meeting you in 2 years.
Yes.
And that will be actually our first meeting face-to-face, as they call it. because you and
Yes.
I have never, we have always been chatting online. And that day, Ajanta, maybe we can talk about I'm going to book you that day for many other programs, from Neruda to I don't know what. And Nandini will be there. This time we will play the reverse roles. Uh,
Well,
that
Shujit
she
Babu,
will
I
be the
have to
one
tell
who.
you that the person who rolls out the Shotaranchi and rolls it up, he is the most important person, really, because you have provided this platform. You are providing ongoing platforms for many such authors as Nandini, and I think for many of us readers, therefore, you are a very important person because you are bringing all these people together. And we are enjoying this discussion, and we are enjoying a lot of thoughts and activities in these times, when we can only be online.
Yes.
Well,
I completely echo the sentiment.
thank you very much for those kind words. Maybe now I will call myself a doctor for the next 1 or 2 hours. I think I've qualified. I couldn't borrow it. So that's what it is like. So I think, well, we have really come to end of a seminar. And now I am tempted that, other than just doing authors chats and book launches, which we keep on doing, I think we must go to do something larger in terms of the issues that they have been being discussed right now, into a real kind of a online seminar of sorts, because I think a lot of value, I was watching from the wings, a lot of valuable discussion actually started taking place. And at the end of it, Nandini, I think you can go to, and Ajanta, go to the Facebook thing on Kahani Kancheti. There are some comments which have been made, which I couldn't put up all of them, but maybe you would like to answer them at your leisure, because there are
Sure.
some comments about them.
Sure thing.
Right. So,
Yes,
Ajanta,
definitely.
where do we end this? Where do we end this session?
I think we should maybe get one more little word from Nandini on the concept of how you're bringing marriage and motherhood together, and how they are strands of this greater image of womanhood that you're presenting to us. So if you could just, these three words: womanhood, motherhood, marriage, all together. This is what the
Tough
book
one.
is about.
Tough one. So I have been, in fact, talking about motherhood uh, for a long time, because I have been talking about how Noapa depicts motherhood, or how Emicheta depicts motherhood, how Mohashata depicts motherhood. So to me, and if I talk about this book, there are quite a few mothers. They're extremely imperfect mothers, because I feel motherhood is at the same time extremely joyous. If you wish to have a child, and you have that child, it is a joyous experience, definitely. But very often motherhood is sort of it is looked upon as it is imposed upon women very often. And uh, it's supposed to be your sacred duty to perform, and if you do not perform that sacred duty, then there is a tag attached. We all know that there are words for women who do not become mothers. It's a social stigma. Interestingly, none of the stigma exists for the men, but for the women, all of these stigmas are there. Even as we talk, we've and again, somebody I know, they got one of the wives could not have a child. Apparently she went and got the husband married to a younger woman for a child, and this is the 20th 21st century I'm talking about. This is not from some an old story. This is a contemporary story. It's happening even today, even here and now. So I personally feel that this whole business of motherhood and the glorification of motherhood is something that needs to be questioned. And all of us who are mothers, we are very happy mothers. We love our children, but we are extremely imperfect mothers. I don't know, because I don't know if there is any way of becoming a perfect mother. I don't know who those people are who have these perfect motherhood situations. All of us are learning on the job, making mistakes, relearning, and mostly being told that we are pathetic mothers. I don't know if we also receive compliments, being told that you make such an excellent mother. I, for one, have never heard it. So about motherhood, therefore, I feel that as an imposition, it definitely needs to be questioned. The mothers in my work, therefore, are extremely imperfect mothers. They don't make for the greatest of mothers. They make for difficult daughters and difficult mothers. Womanhood, definitely, motherhood does not define womanhood. Your persona as a woman, your persona as the woman that you are or aspire to be, has nothing to do with your ability to reproduce. So womanhood is entirely sort of it's separate from motherhood, so to say. It can be a combined effort. I mean, it can be a combined situation, but then it does not need to be either. You can be your own woman without having ever become a mother. And then about the women that I talk about, like I said, these are incomplete women, these are imperfect women, these are what Shomik was saying, real women. They are learning along the way. They are falling. They are getting up. They're falling again. Their struggles are real, and their victories are not triumphant victories, because those triumphant victories do not quite exist. So every time they struggle, they get up, they fall, they struggle again, and they try to find, just as in lipstick, the mother, it ends with joy. It does not end with the child. I don't know if she'll ever find her son, but she finds a daughter. So it's what life gives you and how you move along with that life. And I think somewhere I did have Rudali in my mind, that that closeness that she shares with Sanichari, which she does not find in any relationship with the husband, with the son, whatever. But that brief period where she really truly comes alive is that special bonding that she has with another woman. So I think it's that bonding which I stress, and which I think is the crux to a person finding herself, and therefore a crux to womanhood. And motherhood, like I said, is kind of overrated. I don't know if I answered you correctly. So this is what I had to say.
I don't think there's any correct answer, Nandini, but I think you've answered it very well. Really excellent. Thank you so much for that.
Yes, I think you've covered. And I also want to thank, first of all, the viewers. I'm sure there were a lot of professors and students and a lot of our Kahani Kancheti followers who were here today, extremely enlightened. In fact, the Kahani Kancheti, our objective, the vision is just 3 words. It says engage, entertain, enlighten. So I think today we have really been able to, Nandini and Ajanta have been able to engage our audience a great amount, entertain them. And of course, we are going back enlightened on the subject. So thank you very much. And I do hope you all will keep coming back to Kahani Kancheti shows. Follow us on our social media. And to Nandini and Ajanta, just to say thank you, I don't think will be adequate enough. All I can say is that very wonderful to have you all with us, and we hope. Julie Mehta is here. Just a minute, I just want to bring her in since she has made an effort to come in. And Julie, you're online. You can put on your camera before we end.
I don't
We must
know.
hear from you.
I don't know why the camera doesn't come on, but can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Is it all right to speak as it is?
Yeah, just speak as it
Yes,
is.
Julie.
Yeah.
All right. So I must say I'm very happily surprised that Nandini has taken up the issue of sexual empowerment and sexual diversity and empowering the young child who cannot really come out and say that he is gay. And it reminded me, Nandini, of Funny Boy by Sham Salvadurai. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but this is an iconic book by Sri Lankan Canadian author.
Yeah.
And what struck me is that it is the mother that these young boys seem to gravitate towards, because there is more love and more understanding. And usually the patriarchy all over the world sort of sidelines and marginalizes them. And as Nandini was saying, there was an incident recently of suicide. And this is something that I'm quite amazed after coming to Kolkata and teaching at Loreto College. My master's students, I've heard that this is not an odd occurrence. At the University of Toronto as well, South Asian students were not free at home to talk about their sexual orientation. So, Nandini, I think this is quite marvelous that you brought mother into the front and center of the relationship between the young son and mother, and the understanding that comes from the mother rather than the male patriarchs in the family.
Thank you, Julie. Yeah, yeah. So I did think that, if the family is kind to their offsprings,
Yes.
it can be so much better. But
Yes.
unfortunately, that is never the case. And there are just so many so many things that sort of stop the parents from showing that kindness. uh,
Yes.
and uh, and in this case, the mother learns it at a much later stage in her life, and she lives with that sorrow
Yes.
of not having understood her own child. And I think again here, I there's so many stories that I think have impressed me or live with me. So I could immediately, I mean, now it's striking me maybe even now when I'm talking to you all. So this whole thing of Sujata in Hajachura Shirma,
Yes. Of
she
course.
doesn't understand why her son did what he did, and
Yeah.
then the entire quest is to understand what he did.
Yeah.
And so I had to show an entire quest. See, the challenges of a short story is that you have to be economical in terms of your words. You do not have
Yes.
the breadth of the canvas of a novel. So I had to make it very short and very concise, but I hope the essence came through, which only my readers can tell me.
Yeah, absolutely, Nandini, and thank you for that, because I will recommend this story to maybe 3 or 4 of my students who have a different orientation. It would help
I'm
greatly.
so
Thank
grateful.
you.
I'm so
Thank
grateful, Julie. I think that what Shomik was talking about, I mean, if we can call this literary activism, then well,
Yes,
if it
yes.
influences even one person, then I think my job is done. I
Thank
would be
you.
so gratified. Thank you so much,
And not
Julie.
only
Thank
that, Kahani Kanchiti will feel very privileged if such a result emerges out of this kind of discussion on our platform. We'll be
yes.
absolutely very happy to be a part of this. I'm so glad, and I'm glad, Dr. Mehta, you could make it in the last minute and sort of have one live chat. And
I'm
we
so
also
great.
hope
I'm
to
so
look at
grateful
you.
for having this opportunity, and I think Nandini and Professor Ajanta Dutt will also be on a be ongoing in conversation in this regard. So thank you so much, Mr.
Thank
Shujit. This
you.
is awesome.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
very
much.
much. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for joining. And thank you, Nandini and Ajanta. I think it really, as they say in Delhi, dil se, matlab, maza aa gaya. That's the best way I can express. Otar kono Bangla nahi. So that is what it is. So look forward
Thank
to
you.
our audience once again very soon. And as far as Nandini and Ajanta are concerned, definitely meeting up on 12 between 4 to 6 at book reading at Home Bookstall at Ambience Mall, and then we can continue our little discussion and adda from there. And this has been a wonderful adda. So once again, thank you for joining us. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank you, all of
Look
you.
forward seeing you soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ajantadi. Thank you, Shujita. Thanks.
Thank
It's
you,
been
Nandini.
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Thank you. It's really been a marvelous
Yes.
evening.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, so there we are. I hope you all enjoyed. Please keep writing your comments. Write to us at Sujit. Let me give you our email ID. Those of you all who are still hanging on can um, write to us at at that email ID that I have just given you. It should be Sujit at the rate. Thank you, Shulunda, for your comments. And so with that, we end this session. We didn't even know that we have done almost a little over 90 minutes on this show. Thank you.